What's up guys, it's me Vivi and welcome back to another Ratchet Clank video. So you guys read the title, how can Insomniac games go back to the original Ratchet Clank series? What I mean by this is, what kind of excuse can they use? I mean, the ending of the PS4 game makes it seem like a sequel to that game is very possible. Not to mention the movie's ending. Now one thing is clear guys, Insomniac games has thoughts in mind, whether it's a sequel to Into the Nexus or the PS4 game. This was explained by James Stevenson back in March 2016 to celebrate the launch of the Ratchet & Clank movie in France. You can actually find this interview on Ratchet Galaxy's channel, the link will be in the description below. It's not like they forgot about the original series, oh, they worked on a new game, that means they're gonna stick to that. No, that is not the case. Those who had doubts, worries, there's no need. But the question is, which one will they go with next? Now guys, before I get into this whole excuse situation / theory, let's call it that, I'd like to go over a few things. Insomniac Games said, better the sales, better the future of the series. Now that could be said for any video game, right? Now the PS4 game, it sold very well. It was the fastest seller since A Crack in Time. Okay, so it's settled. They're gonna continue with a Going Commando / Up Your Arsenal reimagining. I mean, their new game on the PS4, which is a reimagining, it sold like crazy. Sure it did, but I don't think that's what's gonna convince them to stick to this new universe only from now on. So, Insomniac Games currently has two choices. Make a sequel to the PS4 game or go back to the original and make a sequel to Into the Nexus. There are two types of audiences at the moment, old and new. New one being for the PS4 game, the old one, the old audience for the original series, right? Now I'm sure that Insomniac Games, in the back of their minds, they're worried that these newcomers will get lost if they make a sequel to the original. That's why they have a choice to make. Look, a bunch of new people discovered Ratchet & Clank PS4. These people, they're expecting a sequel to that game. I'm sure Insomniac Games has wondered about that. So that's why there's this barrier right in front of them. What should we do? Should we do this or that? What I'm thinking is, hopefully, Sony releases a future Saga collection. Now of course it's not Insomniac Games who's gonna handle that, they usually don't handle ports, but I'm hoping Sony picks up a studio to work on that. And I'm hoping we get an announcement at PSX 2017. I mean, Ratchet & Clank's 15th anniversary is coming up soon. A future Saga collection, Tools of Destruction, Quest for Booty, and A Crack in Time put together on one disc would be fantastic. Plus, put trophy support for Tools of Destruction, that would be super sweet. With that being done, hopefully, it's gonna be much easier for newcomers. Plus, in the end, Sony gets more sales. Not only do we get a sequel to Into the Nexus, but there's also a collection. Knowing how Ratchet & Clank sold in the first 2 weeks, having more games, it's gonna bring in more cash if, of course, it's promoted well. I'm saying cash because, at the end of the day, it's all business. Even Insomniac Games said it themselves. Better the sales, better the future of the series. Now sure, the PS4 game is the fastest seller since A Crack in Time. I'm just worried, yes I said not to worry before, but I just don't want Sony to take that as, oh, Insomniac Games made a reboot, aka a reimagining. It sold super well, okay, let's stick to that. Let's ask Insomniac Games to make a sequel to that game. I mean, it topped the UK charts within the first 2 weeks. A Crack in Time, it sold well, and that was a sequel by the way, right? It sold over 385,000 copies according to VG charts, it's a rough estimation, and all of that was within a year, for the US. As for the global sales, it's up to 1.8 million, so around 400,000 copies let's say. That convinced Sony to have more Ratchet & Clank games made. Okay, but what about the movie? Did that play any role in the sales? The movie came out later, in the US, so I'm gonna have to say no. If the movie had succeeded at the box office at least with no loss, then sales for the game would have been higher. A lot more people would have known about the game. Sony marketed Ratchet & Clank PS4. As for the movie, not so much. So with that small discussion out of the way, how can Insomniac Games go back to the original series? What excuse can they go with? What if Ratchet & Clank PS4 is just a Holo-Film? After Into the Nexus, or in the future we can say, Ratchet, Clank, and Quark made a movie about their adventures in the past. Remember the first teaser of Ratchet & Clank? Ratchet, Clank, and Quark. Remember that script in Quark's hand? What if they decide to actually make that scene canon? As in, these characters actually producing a movie in the future. So wait, you're telling me Nefarious is involved in the movie. What if we go with CGI? Looking at how technology is so advanced in the Ratchet & Clank universe, it's not far-fetched. Let's go with that. What if Nefarious simply voice acted? But why would Nefarious even sign up for such a thing? Actually, I made a video talking about how Nefarious has turned into this anti-hero. He could maybe in the future turn friendlier? Who knows? I'm talking about a faraway future here. Well, not that far, where Ratchet gets old, but I'm just saying, if that were true, Nefarious wasn't even part of the original story, Ratchet & Clank 1. If you've watched my lore video, I did discuss how Nefarious was behind the attack of the Amoeboids in Blackwater City. So behind the scenes, in Ratchet & Clank 1, Nefarious actually existed in the timeline. He was there, but he was simply not shown. All of this was explained by Quark via the vid comics. Also, don't forget that Nefarious actually likes to act. Remember that scene from A Crack in Time with the script in his hand? That one. Okay, Nefarious is also working with the film. Why even hire such a villain? Like I said, in the future perhaps he changed. Maybe he did that only for the bolts, or it was part of his dream to be featured in a film regardless of the characters, or maybe he wasn't involved in the film at all. They could have used computer and technology to produce his voice. The same could be said for Drek. He's not present in the future, he's dead. They simply animated him and used a different voice actor. What about Quark? Let's discuss this character a bit. Let's just say Quark wasn't too happy with the story, with the script. Okay, but why even be in the film if he's not happy with the script? Knowing Quark, he did it for the bolts. He was probably like, okay, whatever, let's get this over with. I'm simply doing this for bolts. That's how I imagine his mindset. So he was involved in the film, but in the future, perhaps he met someone and decided to share his own version of the story, not what was written in the script. Hence comes Ratchet & Clank PS4. Insomniac Games confirmed that the movie is actually what happened, whereas the game had stuff that could have been easily made up by Quark. Now what the Insomniac Games said, the movie being the actual events, what if they meant that what happened in the movie was actually what was part of the script? The script that existed in the original universe of Ratchet & Clank. I mean, these characters, they worked on the film. What we saw in the movie was part of their script. I'm not talking about real life script here, I'm like talking about the script in the game universe. To me, Ratchet & Clank will always be remembered as the original series. That's what I grew up with. So to spice up the production of the movie in the game universe, the studio within the game told the characters that some extra actors would be added. Those extra actors being the Galactic Rangers, Cora, Brax, and Alaris. So those characters in the movie were paid actors. The studio did that simply to spice up the movie, to add more characters, more content, right? There you go. As for the jail scene, is that when Quark is telling his own version of the story, or is Quark explaining that scene in the future? It's option number 2. Quark from the future explained his time in prison, how he met someone and told him the following story he's telling to the current person. This character who Quark is talking to, he saw the movie they worked on, and spoilers by the way, Quark goes to jail, right? The movie didn't have that scene, they didn't work on that scene, or perhaps they did work on that scene but it got deleted. So this character who watched their movie got curious about his time in prison, you know, since it wasn't shown in the film. Quark did end up in prison in the original series, by the way, due to the personal hygienator scam and all that. So Quark explains his story to this character. Does this mean that Sheev Helix actually exists? Did Quark actually meet such a character? Perhaps he did. Just to clarify something, I went with option number 2 because of the ending scene of the PS4 game. Quark going with Ratchet. He left prison at that point, he was no longer narrating, if we go with option number 1. Option number 2 works here because he could simply be making up that scene, making up his own story. What actually happened is, he escaped by flushing himself down the toilet, and then Quark disguised himself as Fizzwidget. He didn't want to say that just to make it seem like he's a good person, to make him look good, knowing his personality. So in summary, my theory is that the Ratchet & Clank movie is a simple Holo-Film, which was made in the universe of the original series, sometime in the future. As for the PS4 game, that's Quark explaining his own made-up version to a character in the future. He wasn't happy with the script. He only did it for the money. That's the only thing that convinced him to follow the script. Ratchet & Clank 1, it was all about Ratchet and Clank going from planet to planet. Since it's a movie, the movie studio thought that, hey, let's add in more characters. Perhaps Brax didn't even need a stunt double, because he was apparently part of Dread Zone at some part in his life. As for Cora, her tiara has the Kragmite Empire symbol. Yes, she's an actor, but this actor could perhaps turn out to be a very important character in the future. Now, I know what you guys are gonna say. You're gonna mention that first scene from the PS4 game. If Quark is telling his own version in the future to this certain character, why would he say in that scene that they're working on a game based on a Holo-Film based on his life? Holo-Film, they weren't working on a film in the past. They worked on a film in the future. Now, would it be too far-fetched to say that they made the game first and the Holo-Film was yet to be made? It probably got delayed. Pretty much we're talking about a Holo-Film based off a game, which happened first. So guys, in the comment section, tell me if this is a good excuse. Ratchet & Clank PS4 and the movie all being part of this Holo-Film that the characters work on in the future. Do you agree or disagree? Do you agree on some parts or disagree on some other parts? Be honest in the comment section below. And as usual, I've been Vivi and thank you for watching, guys. Until next time.